But let's move on to something else now, because certain people here at ESPN like to throw salt in my wounds. But a little thing called the Community Shield went on at the weekend, a Manchester derby indeed. And we're going to pick things up in the 81st minute. And thank goodness for that, because that's how long we have to wait for anything to happen. And it was Alejandro Garnacho off of the bench to put Manchester United in the lead. But anything you can do, Bernardo Silva said he can do better. He came off the bench as well and celebrated this like it was a Champions League final. And then we went to dreaded penalties. And as much as I was just gassing up Bernardo Silva, he did miss his penalty there. Andre Onana with a great save. Love this man, Shaka. Andre Onana showing Erling Haaland where to go for the pens, and he had to turn around and give him a cheeky smile after that. But then it went from bad to worse for United. Jadon Sancho missing a penalty, and then Johnny Evans, skying it just over the bar. So Manchester City win the Community Shield for the first time since 2019. They had lost 3 in a row before that. But I want to talk about the man that we saw come off the bench for Manchester United, Alejandro Garnacho, guys, because what a special talent he is. He has definitely come into his own with the loss of the youngsters at Man United, including Kobbie Mainoo, Amad Diallo as well. But my question is, let me start with Herc then. Can he be Manchester United's main man this season, or do you see him being better in this super sub role that Erik ten Hag has actually told us last year that he likes to use him in?
Well, I would love to use him in that role too, because he's been productive to a sense in that role. But I'm looking at the list of wingers that Manchester United has, and when you go down United's list, Rashford, he's not moving Marcus Rashford. Rashford, hopefully he gets back to the level he was at a few years ago, but he's the most consistent player, one of the most consistent players you have, especially in that position. Jadon Sancho, he was loaned out because of the personal problems he had with Erik ten Hag. So that could be a sense right there where he's going to start or play over him. Something will happen there. Anthony was playing left back when Luke Shaw was injured. He was a left back, and he's never had a breakout season for United. Still waiting on season 3 here, see what happens. Amad Diallo, he was a youth player from Atalanta. I would suspect it had more to do with Garnacho and the lack of proper preseason with United, and Diallo having actual preseason with United that he ended up playing more time than Garnacho. And then Pellistri. Pellistri's a player that hasn't really exploded, nor I think will explode with United. Probably will end up, if he can, on another loan. So I expect him to play. The problem here is not how much I expect him to play, but how good I expect him to be. Garnacho is an excellent prospect. He's 20 years old with a massive ceiling, but he's played a lot. Over 33 games, 2,500 minutes, and he's got 7 goals to show for it. And in those 7 goals, he scored 3 braces. 3 of those games came the majority of his goals. So you want to see more consistency out of a player who can play anywhere in that front line, a player that has crazy intangibles. But why is he only exploding in select games? And how can you get more out of him? That'll be the question for not only Garnacho, but Erik ten Hag.
Shaka, what do you think now, especially with the resurgence, I would say, of Amad Diallo? We got to see what he can do in preseason. We got to see what he could do towards the end of the season last season with his absolute clutch goal in the FA Cup against Liverpool that helped get United through. He feels a lot more confident. Erik ten Hag seems to enjoy playing him on that right wing, which probably means that many fans would want to see Garnacho start with him, but maybe on the left. How do you see Erik ten Hag, I suppose, as Herc said, getting the best out of both?
I'll be honest. I think this is a big season for Garnacho. I think this will be Garnacho's breakout season. My far too early prediction is Garnacho will end the season as Manchester United's best player. And then everybody has to fit in around that, whether you put Diallo on the left and shift Rashford more central, or Amad Diallo is dropped to the bench. I just feel that Garnacho right now is primed to be Manchester United's next big name in football. And Erik ten Hag has to kind of build a team around this, albeit 20-year-old. I feel if Manchester United are to have any successes this season, it will hinge around how ten Hag uses Garnacho and how he builds a team around Garnacho.
As I was saying, I spoke to ten Hag last year, and I did ask him that question about Ale Garnacho, because everyone, at least associated to Manchester United, I think I would say are most excited about this player before we got to see more of Kobbie Mainoo really come into his own this year too. You know, they love the fact that he's so pacey, he's fearless, he will run at every defender. And Ten Hag says, well, when you look at the bench and all the injuries that United had suffered last season and currently are still suffering from, it's almost like he's told me he's the best thing I have coming off of the bench. And I need that option, because then you look at the fact that City are able to bring people like a Jack Grealish off the bench, or even a Holland sometimes in certain situations, a Julian Alvarez before now. He's like, this is my key man. But it's unfortunate because when he plays like that, people believe he should start.
Yeah, I believe we just saw that graphic there that said he played 73% of the minutes available. So he was a starter. He was a guy who was starting games. I go back to his big game performances. You look at the teams he scores against. I mean, it seems like he scores against City every single time he plays against City. And half the times it's when a trophy's on the line. And then it's a brace against Chelsea, a brace against Villa in a comeback victory, a brace against West Ham. These aren't bottom feeders I'm talking about. These are European teams. These are teams that are playing for European spots that he's doing this against. So what I'm trying to say here is he's gotten that opportunity. And I don't want to be unfair because he's 20 years of age. And I understand there's a maturation that comes with that age. There's a maturation that comes to playing with a team like United. But he's been that player that's played those big minutes. It's about unlocking him now because of those intangibles. He can run at anybody, right foot, left foot, come inside, come outside, play in a central position. But there's a reason that maybe we didn't see too much of him with the Argentine national team during Copa America. There's a reason that guys like Nico Gonzalez, who play in Fiorentina, were getting more minutes than Alejandro Garnacho, who plays at Manchester United for Scaloni. I think we're still waiting to see the best of him, and that's going to take time.
Well, as Shaka says, he picks this to be his breakout season. But Shaka, just hearing these conversations when we're talking about Garnacho, where does he play? How many minutes should he get? Amad Diallo, where does he play? How many minutes should he get? Where does this leave Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford? Because if anyone needs a breakthrough season, it's those two now.
Jadon Sancho needs to move away. I'll be frank with it. I thought while he went to Borussia Dortmund and was very good for them in that run to the Champions League final, you just haven't seen him good enough under different managers at Manchester United. Now, I can't speak to why that is, but it just hasn't worked. And for me, I don't think it will, despite him and Ten Hag supposedly burying the hatchet. For Marcus Rashford, I continue to believe that Rashford is an incredibly talented footballer. Had that big half to the season after the World Cup in 2022 was very disappointing last season. Again, there was a lot of rumor and speculation about his relationship with Erik Ten Hag, but I feel that you need to have a kind of mature, anchoring performance for Marcus Rashford. He's no longer the young prodigy coming through the academy, breaking into the team and learning the game. When you look at Manchester United, and yes, there's some experience in there, more experience than Rashford. Rashford, for the most part, can boast a lot more experience than many others. Garnacho, as an example. And I feel that he has to be kind of the mature player in Manchester United's attack. Everybody else in that attack is very young, whether we're talking Xerxes or Højlund or Diallo, whoever it may be, they just don't have the experience of Rashford. So I expect him to contribute, but not to the level that we saw in 2022, and probably not to the level that I expect Garnacho will have. He'll have to be that calming head in there. That is much needed. And less of the kind of show of frustrations when he has, disappointing games or misses a chance. That's not his role now. His role is to get the best, or make sure that the young players get the best out of themselves.